Hi guys, my name is Alexandra. I'm a freelance graphic designer and Upwork expert. I'm gonna be posting quite a lot of videos about Upwork on this channel, so I wanted to make this video about my journey, my success story, that I can always refer to it in case I will be mentioning something from my history on Upwork in other videos. And also just to tell you that Upwork is awesome and it's possible to grow there, it's possible to start earning a lot of money through there, and that I love it. So my journey on Upwork actually started long time ago, back in 2014, when it was still called Odesk. I was 18 back then, I just finished high school and I was looking for some work to do until I get into university. So I started working through Odesk as a translator. I was basically translating articles from English into Russian on one website, and I think I'm not allowed to say what website it was. I think they sent me some email stating that, like, you know, I can talk about that. And that was a pretty cool job actually. They were paying me depending on the length of the articles. So for bigger articles I would get more money, and for small articles I would get less money. I think the minimum was $5 per article and the highest was $24 per article. I really enjoyed doing that, and for me, an 18-year-old girl living in Ukraine, it was a pretty good income back then. I remember at some point I made like $600 in 2 weeks and I was just mind blown. I stayed with that job for around half a year and then I entered university. I started studying, I had less time for this work, and also they changed their payment a lot back then. I remember that the minimal price dropped to like $2.50 per article and the highest price also dropped. So basically it wasn't that profitable anymore, and I moved to Europe, so the money didn't seem that good anymore. So I left it and I just focused on my studies at that point. A few years after that, in 2017, I had some extra time after my studies and I wanted to find work again, but I had trouble doing that. Like, I couldn't find any clients, I couldn't find anyone who would hire me. I've been applying to a lot of jobs, but I couldn't get anything. So at some point I just gave up and I stopped doing that, and I went back to focusing on my studies until I graduated in 2018. And then I started looking for an official full-time job and I couldn't find anything because I live in Portugal and I graduated from a Portuguese university, but I don't actually speak Portuguese that well to be able to use it in my professional communication. And it was really hard for me to find anything. I think I went through like 50 interviews at least in that half a year after my graduation. I was looking for any kind of work, any kind of internship, any kind of anything, and I couldn't find anything. So I went back to Upwork to try my luck again. And it worked! After sending a dozen of proposals that ended up with nothing, I actually managed to find a client as a virtual assistant, and I started working with him. My rate was $7 per hour back then. I tried to ask for more, but he said that his budget was only $7 per hour, and I agreed on that because honestly I had nothing to lose. I still had no other like job offers or anything, and I was quite desperate to find at least something because I was getting honestly like really bored with my life with nothing to do, and my parents were paying everything for me and I really wanted to start becoming independent already. So I was pretty happy to get that job, and the client turned out to be really great and the tasks turned out to be really cool. Like, I remember one of my first tasks was to build a trip plan for him. So he was going to Amsterdam and I had to research cool places in Amsterdam where he can go, like cool restaurants, cool activities, something unique, something extraordinary. And I love traveling, so for me that task was incredibly interesting to do. And after that I've done that for many different cities for him and I enjoyed it. I just love that work in general. Actually, we are still working together with that guy. It's been like 2.5 years now. I'm not working as a virtual assistant anymore, but I'm still working with him, and I'm still occasionally doing those travel plans for him, just that my rate is much higher right now as it is with all the other clients with whom I work as a designer. But that person changed my life in so many ways. He has been so much of an inspiration for me. I love him. After 2 years of working together, our relationship is more like friends than like a client and a freelancer. And he has sent me so many messages about how much he's valuing me, how much he likes my work, and honestly, like, of course, that's like super nice to read, and I just smile every time when I see a message from him, and I'm so grateful that my first like long-term client from Upwork turned out to be so much of a nice person that I honestly love working with, and we are even planning to meet in real life sometime, maybe next year or something, after the pandemic will be going down a little bit, so it will be easier for us to travel and to actually meet each other in some point of the world. A few weeks after I started working with my first client, I actually got invited for a job on Upwork by another company to also be their virtual assistant, and I started working with them as well. With them I had the fixed price system, so they would pay me 450 euro, I think, every month. It was a business-to-business company with a product based on AI technologies. I really enjoyed working with them as well. My job was basically to communicate with their clients, to ensure that the whole process of communication with their clients is going well, everyone understands what is happening. I was basically like an account manager, so they would assign certain clients to me and I would handle those clients, letting them know what is happening, making sure that they are happy and so on. I was doing really well, they liked my work. At some point they asked me to help them to find more people for some other positions, like also virtual assistants or sales people, and I did that, and some of my friends actually still work with that company like 2 years after, and as far as I know they still enjoy it, so that's pretty cool. For me, although the experience in general was really nice, but there were some moments that I didn't like about working with that company. It's just the way their communication was built sometimes that was weird for me. Like, they could never get my name right, which is really strange because my name is Alexandra. It's really simple, it's really easy, and it's written in a weird way in Ukrainian. So like officially my name is written Alexandra, and that confuses so many people, even though that's just the Ukrainian version of Alexandra, and I'm always there like, please just call me Alex, I'm Alex, that's easy. But they kept calling me like Oleska, Oksana, Olga, whatever, just weird names, and for me that was kind of disrespectful, and they were really impatient with the answers. So if I would not answer to them for like 1 hour, they kept writing to me like, hi, are you there, when are you gonna answer, you know. They could text me really early in the morning or really late in the evening and expect me to answer. So that was, I guess, some experience for me to learn to build my personal borders and to make a statement that like, it's okay that I'm not answering to you at 11 p.m. on Saturday, you know. So there were some of those little annoying moments in work with this client, although I cannot say that the experience was bad in general. It was okay, it was good, I liked working with them and I liked those people. In July 2019, I found my full-time office job. It was actually a job on Malta, so I had to move there from Portugal. It was a friend of mine who was working in the company there, and she recommended me for a position of the administrative assistant, and they hired me. And the funny thing is that around that time my freelancing started going so well that both of my clients offered me full-time positions, but I already had the contract signed with that Maltese company, and I was actually curious like to try it out, and all my like moving from Portugal to Malta was already set and planned, and I couldn't just back out so easily. So I accepted the office job and I continued freelancing with both of my clients on the evenings or on the weekends or whenever I had a free moment. After a few months, I left my second client, my B2B company, because they basically wanted me to take on more responsibilities, and I didn't really have time for that, and it wasn't profitable for them anymore to keep paying me as much as they were for doing that amount of work that I was doing. I mean, honestly, I was doing like 20 minutes of work every day, so that kind of made sense. For a while after that, I just kept working on my office job, and I still had that one client, my first client, that was still with me, and I still kept doing some little things for him here and there. And then in March 2020, I found, so it's gonna be my third freelance client. I wasn't actually looking for more work back then, but at some point I just went on Upwork. I don't even remember why. I wanted to check something there, and I saw this job post about a position of an assistant for an Instagram influencer, and I really like Instagram and I really like influencers, so that was really interesting for me, and I applied for it, and I kind of forgot about it immediately. I wasn't waiting for the reply, I wasn't like waiting to get the job, I just applied for it and I forgot about it. And then 2 weeks later they wrote to me that they want to start working with me, and I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know how I'm gonna like combine this all, because I already was pretty busy with like my office job and my first freelance client, and then at that point I was also studying a lot. So I had no idea how I'm gonna do it, but the job was really interesting for me. So I agreed and I started working with them, and my rate with them was actually even lower than my rate with my first client. So I was getting $6 per hour. And that was a really strange thing, because I always say that if you already got a client for like a certain rate or a certain price, you shouldn't go lower than that. You shouldn't lower your price for your next client. You should only like keep growing it. But I guess the job was so interesting that I was afraid to ask for more money to not lose that opportunity, and we basically agreed that this will be like a test rate, and then in a month or so, if I'm doing great, we can increase it, which we did after 2 months, I think, in May or beginning of June 2020. We increased that rate to $8 per hour. So I was an assistant of an Instagram influencer. She and her boyfriend, they were on Bali, and my responsibility was to reach out to local villas and hotels and see if they can stay there in exchange for promotion on her Instagram account. And she was making really beautiful pictures and videos from those places, which started going viral at some point, and she started growing really fast. Like in March she had 300,000 followers, and in July she already had like 900,000 followers. So she grew by more than 500,000 followers in less than half a year, which is pretty cool. Now she has like 1.2 million, I think, but I'm not working with them anymore. And they were always saying that they are grateful to me for working with them, for also like contributing to that success. After a while I also started working in sales with them, so I started talking to brands who would like to make promotion on her Instagram account. And I started also getting commission from each closed deal, and my rate at that point was still $8 per hour. Somewhere around that time, in June 2020, I left my office job because I decided to become a full-time freelancer. I just realized that I like it so much more. I like all the freedom that it provides. I like the dynamics. I like it that you control everything. You're not dependent on anyone. And I quit my office job, and I basically only stayed with those 2 freelance clients that I had. But back then I went to my hometown for a while because I was about to get married and our wedding would be there. So I stayed with my parents for like 3 months, which was pretty nice because I didn't have to worry about rent, and I didn't have to worry about bills, and I didn't have to worry about buying my own food. And that was a good time to like stabilize my income as a freelancer, so that once I leave, I know that, you know, like I can actually make it work and I can make a living out of it. But the thing is that back then I was working so much for like 3 months before that I was completely burnt out. Like I could barely force myself to do like 2 hours of work per day. Obviously with those rates I wasn't making anywhere close to sufficient income to make a living. Somewhere around the end of July of 2020 I found another client, and to be honest I still don't know why I started working with her, because I had just so many red flags while talking to her before we closed the contract. She was really one of those clients that just want as much work done for as little money as possible, that are worried about every dollar that they spent on you. She wasn't good at communication either, so when we started the contract in the beginning, she told me what she needs to have done and basically what she didn't like in the work of the previous freelancers that worked with her in this position. And I kind of took a note of that, and I was trying to avoid doing all those things that she was unhappy about with the previous freelancers. And then after a few months she just wrote to me in a way that it was a completely different thing that was important for her, and basically I wasn't doing enough work and she wasn't happy with me, and to be honest I wasn't happy with her either, so we just closed the contract. Thankfully she never left a feedback for me on Upwork, because I think that would have been my first bad feedback and I was really afraid of it. But the work that I was doing for her was influencer outreach, so she had a cosmetics brand and she was looking for people to promote her brand on Instagram, and I had to search for them, and she only wanted to pay me like $5 per hour hourly for like the research that I'm doing. But then I would get, I think we agreed on like $15 per hour for each post that the influencer actually makes, because there's a lot of them that receive the product and never actually get to promote it. but she never paid me those $15 in the end. I think she paid like 10 or 5, or she paid only for the half of the deposit. I don't know, there was like this big misunderstanding, but I was just happy to close that contract and move on and never talk to her again. Somewhere around that time I started feeling really bad about all my freelancing in general, because as I said, I was really burned out. I was really not making that much money. I didn't have energy to work more. I stopped liking what I was doing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to exit, like, you know, this place where I didn't like to be. And I got married and we moved to Portugal. My husband is a student, so he wasn't making any money, and he's still not making any money. And so basically all the family expenses were on me, and I was making like $200 per month, which is not even enough to cover our bills. So we were just living on the savings that I gathered back when I had my office job combined with freelancing, and I was feeling pretty bad, to be honest. Somewhere around that time I also left my influencer client. That was my biggest client at that moment, the influencer girl that grew to like 1 million followers by that point. But I stopped liking their ethics in their work, and it just became too stressful, and I left them. And at that point it was like 80% of my income, although that also wasn't that much, but still it was my biggest client, but I couldn't handle it anymore. So again, I only had that one client, my first client, that was still with me, and actually raised my rate to $10 per hour by himself at that point. I was moving to Portugal. I had a couple of €1,000 saved. I had one client that was paying me $10 per hour, and I didn't have even that much work from him. And I couldn't force myself to work more because I was just so burnt out, and I really wanted to have some kind of a position with more responsibility that would allow me more space for self-expression, I guess, but I didn't know what to do, and it was just a dark time, I guess. Although we were not struggling with money that much because I had those savings, but I just felt so worthless, and I felt like people didn't want to pay me more money even if they were happy with my work. In a month or so after I left my influencer client, they came back to me and they were actually asking me to work with them again and offering me a full-time job, and they asked me how much money I want to be making from that full-time job. And I was so afraid to ask for like €1,500, which I guess I thought that's what I was worth at that point. I was really afraid to ask that, but then I asked that, and they basically offered me this system of payments where the more deals I would close per month, the more I would get paid, because it was job and sales. But the base salary that they offered me, which was like, if I didn't close that many deals, was $200 per month. And I mean, that was crazy. I was like, I swear I was insulted, because they knew that I'm a good worker. They were there asking me to come back, and they were offering me a salary for a full-time position that doesn't even cover my bills. It doesn't even cover half of my rent. And that triggered quite a lot of self-worthlessness thoughts in me, like even the people who want to work with me, even the people who know that I'm a good worker, even the people who know that I'm valuable, who I'm making money for, they still don't want to pay me well. What am I gonna do? What am I supposed to do? What is happening? Like, how do I, how do people even live in the world like this? I don't know. And the funny story is that actually that situation is why I became a designer. So when they offered me that super low salary of like $200 per month for a full-time job, I was so triggered that I decided to make this huge presentation about my value as an employee, telling them all the things that I have done for them, all the value that I bring, and basically why they should give me more money. As I was making that presentation, I kept realizing that it was more exciting than actually getting the job. So I really enjoyed doing that presentation, and when I thought about getting the job in sales, I didn't really want it back that much. I was ready to accept it because I didn't have other sources of income and I was quite lost. But I didn't want it that much back. I was only ready to accept it for like really good money, which didn't happen. So I made that presentation, I still have it. They said, wow, this is so cool, we're gonna come up with a better offer for you. And they never came up with a better offer, and I decided to become a designer because I realized that if I enjoyed doing that so much, why shouldn't I turn that into my job? So I should probably say thanks to them for never offering me good enough salary, because if they did, I would have accepted that job and I would have never become a designer, and I love being a designer. This is honestly the best thing that happened to me and to my career. So thanks to them for like not valuing me that much. Me and my husband went to his hometown to celebrate Christmas with his family, and I remember sitting there with my laptop and watching millions of YouTube videos about how to become a designer, what do designers do, how actually the design processes work, because I had no idea about it. Back when I was a teenager, web designer seemed like a dream job for me, but it always seemed like this is so complicated and so complex, and I will never be able to do that, and I don't know how this works. So I started learning all that stuff from YouTube. I started assembling my portfolio because I actually had some design works that I've done for my previous clients and also during my work in the office, because I was promoted from administrative assistant to marketing assistant at some point, and I was doing quite a lot of designs for social media. I never actually had a job of a designer before, but I did do quite a lot of small design tasks. So I started assembling that into portfolio, updating my Upwork profile, and I set my rate as a designer at $30 per hour. And I spent like 1.5 months preparing for that, doing all those things, updating my profile, updating my portfolio, and so on, and basically kind of delaying the actual moment when I would start working as a designer, because obviously it was kind of scary for me to completely change my profession like that. Until in February we have received a huge electricity bill for using the central heating because it was really cold, and I realized that I cannot pay that unless I start looking for clients right now. And I remember that was, I think it was 16th of February, and I went on Upwork and I started looking for design jobs, and actually the first job that I applied to, I got it, which was really cool. And I guess I have to say thank you to having a really good profile. I was already top rated at that point. I had the 100% job success score and a bunch of good feedbacks from my previous clients, which were not for design works, but I guess it was a general sign that I'm like a reliable freelancer that people can trust. So my first design job was like making a beauty flyer for some beautician from Canada. My second job was designing a book cover, and I think we agreed on $150 for that, but then the client actually gave me $20 as a bonus, so I got $170 for that. My third job as a designer was creating a mood board for a hair care brand, and I got paid $200 for that. So as you can see, I already started working as a designer from quite high prices, let's say. They are obviously not that high, but I've never done works for like $20 or $50. I started from 100 because I was quite tired of earning so little, and I knew that if I want to make freelancing work for me full-time, I gotta raise those rates, and maybe it would take me more time to find clients, but I gotta find those clients who would be like actually paying me not $20. And I just want to say that the whole point that I started making more as a designer, it wasn't only because I transitioned from being a virtual assistant to being a designer. I also saw a lot of perspectives for growth as a virtual assistant. I was actually offered the position of a project manager at some point, and I could have done that, and I could have raised my rate as much as the virtual assistant as well. But the whole point was that I got tired of that job. I got tired of the kind of responsibilities that I had to do. I wanted to do something more creative. I wanted to do something different, something that would allow me to bring more of myself into the process, not just being an assistant doing this and that for this and that person. So I don't want you guys to think that you gotta like change your profession in order to start making more. I'm 100% sure that I could have raised my rate as the virtual assistant as well and find more clients who would be willing to pay more, but I didn't have that burning passion for that work anymore, and because of that I couldn't do that anymore. And the main reason why I succeeded with design was because I'm really passionate about it and I really love it. And I honestly believe that if you have that passion for your work, you can make any kind of professional work, even if you're just a virtual assistant or the data entry person. You can just expand your skill set or ask for more responsibilities or manage a team at some point or work with like generally higher paying clients. That's completely possible. The only reason why I transitioned into design was just because I got bored of being a virtual assistant, and that's completely not necessary if you want to start making more. But that's my story. A few weeks after I started working as a designer, I saw this job post on Upwork that was for a long-term work. It was basically the position of a junior designer in a team of the designer who had over 15 years of experience, and the job description just sounded so good, and the budget was like from $20 to $30 per hour, so it was within that interesting financial range for me. And I just wanted to get that job so much, because as freelancers we don't often get a chance to learn from the person who is more experienced than us, to work in a team with a person who can actually teach us something. I sent a proposal for it and I was selected for the next round of the selection, for the interview, and I just wanted that job so much that I even talked to my friend who is a recruiter, and I asked her for the interview advice, like what should I say, what should I ask, what should I do. So I did an interview and I got a test project to do, and then I went to the job post on Upwork and I saw that there are like, I think 4 or 5 more people that this person was interviewing for the same job, and they also got the test project. And I went to their profiles and I saw that some of them have like over 10 years of experience of being a designer, and I was there with like 2 weeks of experience, and I swear I didn't believe that I will get that job. I did my best for the test project and I just tried to forget about it because it was so heartbreaking to not get it, but I was like, I don't have any chance, you know. If she's interviewing people who have like literally 10 more years of experience than me for the same price, like how can I still stand a chance against them? But believe it or not, I got that position, and that was one of the best things that could have happened to me at the beginning of my design career. I got to work with her on the projects of her clients, which were pretty good, pretty like big successful companies. I got to learn her processes of work, and I swear I don't know any person on this planet who has a more professional approach to work than that woman. I was getting paid $25 per hour, and then she introduced me to one of her clients that basically wanted to hire a junior designer themselves, so not like through her, but they wanted to hire someone to be a junior designer as a part of their team, but hire that person directly through Upwork themselves. And she recommended me, so they hired me for $30 per hour, which was the rate in my profile, and I started working with them. I only got to work with her for like 2 months, I think, and then for the personal reasons she dropped most of her clients and she didn't need a junior designer anymore, so we stopped working. It was so sad. She told me about it on the call, and when we finished the call I just went to my husband and I was crying and I was like, oh my god, she broke up with me. So it's kind of sad that we only got to work together for like 2 months, but still I got to learn a lot from her in that time, and we still kind of keep in touch. We did have a call like a few months after we stopped working together, just to share the news and update each other on what's going on in our professional lives. And I hope that someday soon we can have a call with her again, because I miss her and I have a lot of updates for her. I should probably go and send a message to her like today. Although I stopped working with her, but I got to inherit one of her clients with whom I started working as a junior designer. She left them, but I stayed with them, and basically I ended up being the only designer for that company. I basically had enough workload to pull it off as a full-time job. I really liked the company, I really liked the team, I really liked working with them. I'm still working with them. Then in the end of April, so basically just 1 or 2 weeks after I got this client, I also got another client, which was an agency from San Diego. They were also paying me $30 per hour. I worked with them for a couple of months, I think like 3 months. At some point I realized that working with the agency is just not that interesting for me, because I love the direct communication with the client, and with the agency it's not really the same, and the projects that they were suggesting for me were just not that interesting for me as well. So at some point I like rejected a couple of them, and then they hired an in-house designer and we stopped working together. I think it was somewhere in June or July, and they left me a nice feedback. Honestly, I was really happy about us finishing our work together, because I just realized that their projects are not that interesting for me. So I was happy for them to grow and to find the person who will be fully there for them and their needs. It's getting dark here, but my story is also slowly coming to an end. So in the end of June I found another client. He actually invited me for his job post himself, and I closed that job for $40 per hour. We still also work together. They're really nice. I like working with them. I like working on their projects, so it's all good. So at that point, I basically had three main clients, which was my company where I was working as a junior designer, which slowly grew into just being a designer because I was the only person there. The job that I closed for $40 per hour, so my other design client, and my first freelance client that is still working with me that also agreed to pay me $30 per hour. I'm not really doing that much work for him now. It's just occasionally if he needs me to do some travel plan or some small design work, he reaches out to me and I help him with that as well. In September 2021, so basically like a month ago, I took a 2 weeks vacation, and while I was on vacation, my biggest clients, the guys who were paying me $30 per hour, with whom I started working back in April, wrote to me that they want to promote me to a lead designer, which obviously I was very thrilled about. I basically grew from junior designer to a lead designer within this company in half a year of time, which is crazy. That's the kind of thing that can only happen when you're a freelancer. And a few days ago, I sent a message to them saying that I would like to raise my rate to $50 per hour, which is my next big increase basically. And they agreed to pay me that. And it's like a 60% increase. So I'm raising it from $30 per hour to $50 per hour in one day like that. And I still can't believe that they agreed to that. And now I'm planning to raise it to $50 per hour with my other clients as well, because now basically I have three clients. One is for $50 per hour, another one is for $40 per hour, and another one is for $30 per hour. So now what I gotta do is to raise my rate to $50 per hour with those two as well, which I will do eventually. I still wanna kind of dedicate myself to their projects more before doing that. But yeah, that's the situation right now. I have three clients. They are all awesome. I love them all. I'm basically making double Portuguese average salary working just 2 hours per day. I'm sure that I could find more clients if I wanted to make more money, but now it's not my focus. My focus is the studies and my business development and my social media. But in any case, if I would be looking for more clients right now, that would be already for $60 per hour. And it's just so crazy for me to think that 1.5 years ago I was making $6 per hour, now I'm making $60 per hour. 1 year ago I had no idea what to do with my life and my career. I'm just so grateful to myself and to all the opportunities that have been appearing in front of me that led me to where I am now. And it's really dark here, so I gotta go. I hope this was interesting for you to hear, and I hope that this story can prove to you guys that Upwork is amazing and you can find good clients there and you can actually make a full-time living out of there. It just provides so many opportunities if you will be just willing to go and grab them and not be stuck in one place that you don't like, because I could have just stayed on that virtual assistant job getting like $7 or $6 or $8 per hour, even though I didn't like it, and I think that wouldn't end in anything good for me. So yeah, I hope this was inspiring, and I'll see you in my next video.